Good morning. Who went to the party last night? Thank you for getting up this morning. I did not make it preparing. My name is MIX07. I'm President and CEO of Electric Rain. We are a 3D and multimedia software company based out of Boulder, Colorado. And I'm excited to be here today with Nick Pedersen, our product designer, who has helped create StandOut 3-4 years in the making. And Ken Martin here, President and CEO of Blitz. Thanks for being here. Who is a design agency that created the Starbucks presentation, which we'll talk about here shortly. So let's just head right in here. So Electric Rain, we've been creating 3D and multimedia software company for quite some time, or 3D software, Swift 3D, XAM 3D, which exports to XAML, and we're excited to introduce a new product called StandOut. We announced it in January, and StandOut is a rich media presentation solution. It's a .NET 3.0 Windows Vista product, and really it starts with talking about a story, the StandOut story, so I'd like to introduce that to you. So what is StandOut? It's actually talking about the pains of our customer, the ability to stand out from the crowd and differentiate ourselves. And how do we do that? It's by connecting with our audience in a presentation solution. And if we can do that, we excite our audience. And if we do that well, we can actually sell our brand, and they get excited about buying our products. But often, our presentations are antiquated because of software that really indirectly doesn't speak to us in a very rich and engaging way, and often has the wrong effect or the undesirable effect. But you know, it's really about design. Design has become a major differentiating factor today. So this is a good example of Starbucks. When they were introducing their Frappuccino, they actually went to Latin America, and they looked at some of the fruit stands and seeing the organic nature of some of the branding of how, you know, handwritten signs. And they integrated great design with their brand, and it tells a story. So it's all about storytelling. Good presentations engage us and draw us in when we can tell a story. And the interesting thing, though, as a business presenter, we're typically not creative. We're not right-brained. So it's very difficult to get the great design and then be able to tell a story around that. So there's no better way to experience a StandOut or to understand what StandOut is trying to do by delivering great design, great stories. Our solution is design-driven. So let's just show you a StandOut presentation that really exemplifies the engagement that great design, motion graphics can grab us as an audience and draw us in. So let's switch over to the other monitor here. Thanks, Jason. So kind of an anecdotal story. We've been creating this software product for 2.5-3 years, and we did it in stealth mode. And we got a hold of the .NET technology early in 2004, and finally built the product out and went and showed Microsoft in August of last year before the Windows Vista released. And we finally went up and said, you know, boy, wouldn't it be great if they could use the technology to show off the technology? So we went up and pitched the fact that, look, we built this great new product called StandOut, a rich media, multimedia engaging product. It's built for Windows Vista. Why don't, on January 30th, when you release it to the public, that Bill Gates or Steve Ballmer is up on stage and they actually show Windows Vista in our StandOut presentation instead of a static presentation to help engage and show off what the platform can do. So we actually built a mock presentation, and this was it. So, you know, immediately if you see this, you're walking into the audience and you can see the level of engagement, the Vista branding, the spotlights, the nebula. Whoops. Get some focus there, sorry. And as we go into our speaking part of the presentation, you can see the gradient and how design brings in what we call an agenda bar here at the bottom. And the gracefulness of these panels that use reflection, transparency, still keeping all the visual effects, the multimedia effects that engage us as audiences. We've done a ton of research to show that, you know, the television effects, the multimedia cinematic effects that we get drawn into by going to see a movie, understand how to speak to us. And so all of these rich and engaging effects draw us in and keep us engaged in a very fluid and engaging way. So this is output of what StandOut is creating, really approaching broadcast level presentation graphics that can be edited by the business presenter. And so we've even included, this is all a WPF-based application. So, and by the way, we're in alpha, so if you see a little glitching, we're trying to work that out, so bear with us. But we're using the 3D API within WPF. And in this case, this is a video carousel. And so we can play videos. Oh, sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. Well, we'll try one more video. We'll try it. Okay. Technical difficulties. Again, it's in alpha, so this would normally come up to the front and play a video with the sound and create that immersive feeling of playing video directly within your presentation. So let's just move on. And we didn't get the keynote for the Windows Vista, probably for the same reason that you just saw, for the technical difficulties here. So let's see here. Let's just show what we did get. So Microsoft introduced the Expression Studio back in January, very close to the Vista release. And they went to San Francisco, Chicago, and New York. And we used StandOut to produce the keynote for that. So I'm going to show you that presentation as the end result here. I believe that's loading up. There it goes. To give you an idea of the flexibility, and the key to our system is that it's editable. We start with really good design created by a professional designer. We make it editable by the presenter, and we keep the design integrity, and that's the key here. So let's get this guy going. And the whole idea is I'm starting with the end result to show you exactly how the expressiveness of StandOut, what it can bring to your presentations. And then we'll show you how easy it is to build one of these and edit them as well. Come on. You know, it always works so well in the hotel room, you know, or on the plane. So there we go. Okay, so here's an example. Eric Zocker, who's the Expression GM, talked about what great design does for the Expression suite. So there's nice just ease in, ease out transitions here. And we get to the main message. We use a 3D photoscope here. And by the way, this is all fully editable, even within the presentation. So right now, this is an exported presentation. And, you know, I can put in, you know, UX Summit, and I can edit directly in the presentation without having to escape back out to my product. And as a matter of fact, the product's not even running on the machine. So we built in editability directly in to the presentation environment itself. You know, we can even come in and change out graphics and media, so, and then save that back out. So you can begin to see the expressiveness of using 3D multimedia and visually rich graphics to engage us and deliver it in a very graceful way. So that's just a quick example of some presentations. And let's move over to the other machine, Jason, please. Thanks. So what market pains are we solving for the business user? It's really about differentiating yourself. Slideshows really can't deliver the impact. Again, we saw with the antiquated aspect that slides inherently are static. They're based on overheads way long ago. We remember probably from school, then it went over to 35 millimeter slides. And the whole premise of a colored background and text plopped over the top just doesn't engage us in today's you know, fast multimedia society that we live in. Flash presentations currently aren't editable. So even if you were to go to a design agency and get a rich media presentation, you're delivered an SWF or even an FLA file, but those aren't editable by the business user. So I've had our designer make presentations for me in the past, but I can't go in and edit them. So editability is a key factor. And StandOut, the power of Flash with easy-to-use editing, that's really what we're trying to deliver here as the market pains that we're solving for the business presenter. So let me give you a quick overview of the solution. And really, it's a matter of, for designers, what is the business model that we have here? And I'll take you through each one of these steps. So we've actually got a designer edition and a presenter edition of our product. And it starts by engaging with a professional designer like Blitz or design agency. They would engage then with their client, Starbucks in this case, which we'll share with you in just a few minutes. And then Blitz goes back, and let's say for $10,000 they charge Starbucks to create a custom presentation. They go back to the shop, they use Expression Blend along with our StandOut Designer Edition to create this custom Starbucks branded presentation that's editable. And then they deliver that custom presentation, and we call that a design kit, to the business presenter at Starbucks, and I think Stanley's his name, along with copies of our presenter edition, which enables editability. So that's our first business model. The second business model is a turnkey solution. So when we launch Swift or StandOut, if you can afford to engage with a design agency, you'll be able to buy StandOut Presenter Edition, go over to our portal, our StandOut portal, which will have hopefully hundreds of design kits or templates that you could buy essentially. So you get the StandOut Presenter Edition along with a custom design kit, and you can then have the editing environment with that design kit. So we're providing both a turnkey solution as well as extending the business model for design agencies such as Blitz, so they can begin to build out these custom presentations for their clients and extend their service model. So let's see. So Nick is going to introduce, actually take you through the workflow. So Jason, can you switch over machines, please? Okay.
All right, great. So what I'd like to do is kind of give you a comprehensive look at how the workflow moves through our solution. We've got some designers, some developers in the audience. I'd like you to really understand sort of what it is that you might actively be working on to be able to build out one of these design kits. And then I'm going to pass it back over to Mike, and he's actually going to take it from the business perspective of what it's like to actually edit a presentation. So first, we're actually going to start in Expression Blend. So our workflow begins within the design tool that is geared to create design assets for our solution. And Expression Blend was actually our window into the .NET 3.0 platform. Okay, so when they began to build Blend, from what we understand, they were thinking of it more as a user interface development or design tool that allows you to build really great UI for your applications. But what we saw was an opportunity that the platform itself was a really powerful multimedia delivery system. And so with our solution, what we were trying to achieve was this great presentation experience. And so we thought, what a great opportunity to have the platform working behind the scenes to actually deliver these presentations. And the best way for us to access, as designers, that platform was through Expression Blend. So the workflow begins within Blend in building what we call components. So components are actually design assets that you will later composite into what we call layouts in the Designer Edition. Those layouts get packaged up into a design kit, which then moves on into the Presenter Edition for editing. We've got a little trial version of Blend here. And so you understand, I'm actually going to start out with a presentation, a finished presentation, so you actually can see pieces of that presentation as they move through the system. So we're just going to launch a presentation that we call the JetBlue presentation. And you'll get an idea, again, about another sort of finished product. This is what we're trying to enable the business presenter to deliver. So the scenario here is that JetBlue, a company with a lot of company culture, is going to engage with a design firm such as Blitz to be able to build out one of these sample presentations and design kits so that they can then roll out to maybe some of their sales folks in the field. And those sales folks need to be able to edit the presentation. But at the same time, JetBlue is really trying to create and have that company culture come through within their presentation experience. So one thing about JetBlue is they've got a tagline, bringing humanity back to air travel. They have just a really unique design package. They're just a company that really has a unique brand identity. And so rather than just giving presentations that don't really reflect that brand, what they want to do is actually take some of that culture and some of that brand and put it right into the presentation. So in this case, we've got a character, call her Lindsay, who so the design firm has actually said, what we're going to do is we're going to actually have the character become part of the presentation. And so Lindsay is going to kind of move through the presentation, and she's going to deliver content. And again, the whole idea is to create an experience for your audience so that they are not just engaged by what you're saying, but they're also engaged visually. It's the combination that makes for a really effective presentation. So now that you've sort of seen what the finished product might look like, we're going to jump into Blend, and we're going to open up one of the components that were a part of that sequence that you just saw. So again, these components are sort of reusable design assets, and once you design them, you actually compile them out of Blend as DLLs. So you can imagine these as just little self-contained assets. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump in, and this particular sequence has already been built out as a timeline. So we can see, and hopefully you'll recognize, what Lindsay is doing here. So I'm just going to scrub through the timeline. And you can see this is Lindsay catching that box and delivering an image. Down in the timeline, you see a whole bunch of keyframes, okay? Well, because Alpha Video is not supported currently in .NET, we actually have created a PNG sequencer, so it enables you to bring transparent PNG sequences into the system. And so what we have here is a PNG sequence of Lindsay delivering that content. This component is, again, packaged up as a DLL, and then we're going to move into the presenter or the designer edition of StandOut and kind of show how that DLL is integrated. Oh, is it? Yeah, you're plugged in. Hey, you're in my way. All right.
Sorry, battery's running low. Which is also causing a performance lapse.
Aha. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So now we're over in the designer edition of StandOut. And this is the place where you actually take these design assets and composite them into what we call layouts. Okay? So the designer is spending a fair amount of time within this environment actually coming up with the different combinations of text and media and video, audio, all the different things that the end user, the end presenter is going to possibly need to include into their presentation. This is where that process happens. So over here, you can see we've got a hierarchical structure. And if we drill down to sorry about that. Let's go ahead and transition in. And we might actually have some problems here of Lindsay not showing up. Okay, I think I may have opened up. What's that? L8? No. I apologize for that. You know what? I think I might have opened up an outdated file. So let me try a different. Is JetBlue new, right? Yeah? Okay. Well, we'll try that again. So we've got a hierarchical structure to our layouts. So that's one thing that we recognize that slideshow software doesn't support very well, is you end up having to put all of your content onto a slide. And if you have any extra content, that content needs to go onto a new slide. And that is actually not a great experience for the audience, because what you want to do in designing your presentations is actually create these logical chunks of information so that your audience can sort of better understand what information is related to what. So we built in hierarchy into our layouts, and there we go. Sorry about that. I think I had the wrong file open. So now I'm going to show you this layout, and I'm going to just sort of scrub through the timeline. And again, here you can recognize the Lindsay catching the image and throwing it into the air. Okay? So we've actually done a lot of work within. We've really rebuilt an entire timeline system and timing system into our designer edition. And the reason for that is Blend supported great animation, but what we needed to do was then be able to further animate these components in context with one another. So not only can you expose animations that are sort of baked into the component, we can also create keyframe animations on our timeline after the fact, so you can actually choreograph these components coming and going within these layouts. So from this environment, we package this up with all these layouts, all these multimedia delivery sort of packages, and that is what we call a design kit, which is essentially a rich media template, but we think of it as a little bit more, so we call it a design kit. It's really a package that is there to accept your media, your text in your presentation, and really just cook it right into the animation system so that everything looks like it was professionally designed, because in the end it was. So far we've been talking about the designer workflow and what they do to build a design kit. And now we're going to hand it over to Mike, and he's actually going to take a look or show you some of the workflow as you move through the presenter edition from the other side of the picture.
This is the version of StandOut.
No, this is the one you want.
Great. Thanks.
And I can shut this down.
Okay, thanks, Nick. So the scenario here is, again, the design agency has created this rich JetBlue presentation. So there's a design kit now, this file, and it's handed over to JetBlue. So I'm now JetBlue, a sales rep, preparing for my first presentation using our presenter edition of the application. So I'm going to load up the design kit, and I'm going to take a tour with you through our interface and show you how easy it is to edit presentations, insert your custom content, and still keep that design integrity. And then we'll introduce Ken Martin, and he'll show you how he used our products in order to create a Starbucks presentation. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So it's loading up all the assets that the design agency has created, all the different layouts with all the Lindsay deliverables, if you will. And let's just take a quick tour of the interface here. So over on the left-hand side is our outline. This is the linear sequence of information that me as a presenter I'm going to want to talk about. And it's also not necessarily slides over here, these little thumbnails, well, they might appear to be, but this whole section of information in blue is actually content that's going to be delivered in a very rich and multimedia way, just that you've seen. So again, you've seen this before, that Lindsay's going to jump through, and as it gets to this section of information, it's highlighted in gray, and jumps down to the subtopic here, and right down into the supporting content and media. And again, with this section of information, it's delivered in that rich way. This also acts as a slide sorter, so to speak, or a section sorter, so I can drag and drop information and reorder it. Again, this is all in the context of the sequence because all presentations are linear in nature. But so that's the outline, that's what it does. There's also editability here, so we can edit in the outline, and you can see it reflected here. Or I can edit directly on the stage as well, 3400. So one of the coolest features, though, that I think we have in this product is, well, this is one. I always like the scalability. The fact that Blend and .NET Framework is giving us vector graphics, but I want to acknowledge that our product has been designed by a designer. All of our other products, Swift3D, XAM, and even Harmony, is developer-driven. It's MFC. There's only so much you can do with the GUI. And we've had our product designer, Nick, and Stuart down here actually create a really engaging GUI experience. And here's the feature that I was talking about that I think is just really cool. And we've done a bunch of work to understand how presenters gather their content. That it's really when I prepare and think about a presentation I'm going to give, there's a series of steps that I go through. And the first one is that I think about the content that I'm going to want to deliver. What am I going to say? What pictures am I going to use? What imagery? And because we're trying to provide a program that facilitates storytelling, imagery is huge. So there's a couple things that we built in here, and we've revealed this new interface. And just by double-clicking, you can see that my toolbars recede because it's revealing a new interface that I'm no longer in that mode, even though I can still interact, and it'll show up on the stage here. So this area back here is called Flypaper. Flypaper is a scalable, a pinnable whiteboard. It's an area where I can do a brain dump of my thoughts, my ideas, my concepts. And so it just sticks things to it. So in this case, I'm just going to put a little piece of text here. Type in our service. And let's say I've got a Word document that I know I'm going to want some content in there. And again, this is in a very nonlinear way. Even though presentations are linear, we understand that we don't think linearly. So I can find my Word document, and boom, there's just a little sticky there. So I can open it up, copy and paste some text. I mentioned images earlier. So all the presentation gurus are always saying, stop using text-heavy bullet points and using them as cue cards. Start using imagery, tell the story. Why should I have to open up a browser to be able to go search on images? So we built in image search or media search directly into Flypaper. And in this case, I'll just type in JetBlue airplane. Hit the go button. We've tapped into the Flickr API. We hope to partner with Corbis or Getty or somebody. If you have an account there, potentially it could automatically even charge your account when you find the right image. So in this case, it found 39 pages of JetBlue airplanes that we can drag and drop. Right over on the stage when we find the one, and when I choose to download, it'll create the thumbnail, and it'll be ready to be used in my presentation. We even go as far as, excuse me, being able to import PowerPoint slides as well. So if you have information, I'll just bring this guy up. In a PowerPoint, you can create a sticky. When you launch it, it pulls up a converter. So you're not having to retype all of your content. You can pick and choose the different slides that already have content, and I'm not going to do that. It takes a minute to parse, but it'll put all that information on Flypaper. So you can begin to see the power here that we've built into this very expressive, design-centric work environment for the presenter. So the first part of this workflow process is called collect. Nick actually, through our research, analyzed a ton of PowerPoints, read all the guru books, interviewed people, understand how they gave presentation, and came up with this workflow called CORE, C-O-R-E, collect, organize, refine, and express. So in this case, we've just collected all of our information. Now we're at a point where we want to begin organizing it and refining that messaging. So we built in grouping here, and as Nick mentioned earlier, we have a natural hierarchy system to our product. And so we're going to make this into a topic, a subtopic, and supporting messaging. Now let's say we want to associate an image with that. And you can begin to see now the power of organizing this information in a linear way. And so when we're ready to drop it into our main presentation, we just grab that section of information and drop it in there, and boom, it's in there. And if I go back to my stage, you can see now this content that I just typed on Flypaper and my subtopic that I just grouped in my supporting media is there ready to present. And the best part about this, I didn't have to touch design. So what do you mean by that? Let's just see. Here's the introduction screen. Lindsay's dancing. We go into this next mode of her delivering the content that I just created on Flypaper. There's our service. But I'm a business presenter. I didn't have to touch the design. It's actually facilitating a workflow that allows me to focus on content, not on design. Because quite frankly, I'm not a designer. I'm not right-brained. I'm not creative. I leave that up to the agencies like Blitz to do that. But so we built a system that allows us to leverage professional design and creativity, separate the content, yet merge them together and deliver it in that rich and engaging way, keeping the design integrity is the key here. So you can see how easy the product is to use from that perspective. So let me bring up Ken Martin, and can we switch screens here, Jason? CEO of Blitz, and we're happy to have him as our really very first customer success story. We're in the process of building out the Starbucks, so he's going to show you the beginning of something that we're going to continue on. The expression session that I showed you earlier was the first real-world experience, and then this is going to be really our first customer success story here. So Ken, thanks for being with us, and thanks for engaging with Starbucks with us.
Hello. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit about Blitz so I can give you a little bit of a context to who we are and what we do and why we're so excited about StandOut. So let me head on over to the Blitz section. So with Blitz, we've been in business around 10 years now, mostly focused on rich, engaging experiences. We are an early adopter of new technology, and so when I'd heard through the grapevine that Mike and Nick were up to something cool, I was on the phone with Mike right away, like, so what's this StandOut thing I hear about? As a full-service interactive agency, we're doing quite a bit of web development and so forth, and we're located in Los Angeles, and really our expertise falls along the lines of taking brands and creating emotional connections. We use immersion and education and entertainment to really engage them with a brand. And so as we start to get into the Starbucks example, I mean, obviously Starbucks is a classic example of where brands need to be today as far as engaging an experience to more or less connect the customer directly with the company. We're a premier developer of Flash and Silverlight. We've been working with Silverlight for about 6 months now. So the fact that Blend is the core tool for us to develop these kits in was very exciting because in basically learning a new tool, there's a certain amount of investment put into it, as far as the team goes, and it's really allowing us the versatility of delivering both web experiences and sort of this next generation presentation capability. So what makes a great presentation? A lot of what we look at today when we go as an agency on pitches, whether we're making a presentation for a client, who's going to give a presentation about our presentation, it compounds. It's a close sibling of the meetings about meetings. And so when it comes down to key business decisions, really great presentations are sort of that sort of new frontier when it comes to communicating both the points that are necessary as well as emotionally connecting them with the experience of what this, whether I'm presenting a new concept or a new product, to really connect them with the tangibility of this being a real thing. It also empowers the presenter. Obviously, public speaking being one of the top fears of most, being able to create a kit that allows a little bit of the spotlight off of the presenter, and really sort of having a fairly rich experience to engage with, really helps the presenter to feel more comfortable with the content as well as tell the story that they're about to tell. And that gets into our sort of a consistent personality across all communications. When it comes down to it, where digital is at today and where online is at as far as needing to create a more immersive experience, digital overall is finding that both in the mobile to kiosk to so forth. So why should presentations be any different? I mean, we're talking about, large audiences, large screens, etc. So when it comes down to presenting content in a more visually engaging way, StandOut is actually sort of that solution that we're really excited about. We've developed many a presentation in PowerPoint, in the car, in the garage, going up to the, it's that last-minute tool, and you really need that editability. And for a business presenter, obviously that's very key. Now, we've also developed a fair amount of stuff in Flash, but really with the Flash presentations, it's a lot of work, it's fairly expensive, and when it comes down to it for editability for the business presenter, they're kind of a little bit, handicapped when it comes down to being able to change things, and so it needs to come back to us as the agency to do some extreme makeover and then give it back to them. So really, the exciting part for us is the ability to really lock down a lot of the rich elements in a presentation, hand it over to a business presenter, and allow them to really, edit the content on the fly up until the last minute, et cetera, et cetera. So as an agency, it's definitely a win-win for us. I mean, we're doing pitches all the time, and our client needs a presentation, system to be able to communicate their brand both internally and externally. So we're going to take a look at a little bit of what we've been doing with Starbucks. Not too long after I began talking with Mike and Nick about StandOut, I called up Stanley Hainsworth, who's the global creative director at Starbucks, and I was like, hey, I know this presentation that you give all over the world. It's a presentation around Starbucks' creative process, the culture, what's really behind sort of the magic essence behind what they're doing. And I'm like, I really think this can really bring your presentation sort of into that new light, because he's always looking at Starbucks and the experience, both from the retail to the product, and then the advertising. So he handed over essentially his PowerPoint and basically said, let's take a look at this and let's see what we can do to bring Starbucks presentations, raise the bar on it so that we can begin to approach this like we do all of our other touch points. So this is just an example, pulled out a couple slides. I mean, really, Stanley's presentation is fairly simple. The content's very effective, but at the same time, it leaves some room to bring in a little bit more of a sensorial experience. And so what we're going to show you now is sort of a work in progress of where we're taking the content, making it all dynamic so that he can go in, he can change the text, he can change the images. If it needs to be used for a completely different presentation other than what he's doing here, it allows that versatility. So we're going to switch over to the other system and take a look at the demo. So this is after StandOut. So if you could switch over, please. So here we are in the Presenters Edition, and I'm going to, let's run it from the beginning. So with StandOut, we're able to do a lot more dynamic things. We're able to use full motion video. I mean, with the .NET Foundation, we're able to take you into an environment, have more compelling subtitle slides. We're still working on, integrating some music. So here, being able to get a little bit of a little jazz background. As we make our way into the presentation now, we're able to take a look at, so we have ourselves a breakfast sandwich, let's take a picture of it. We're utilizing the 3D abilities of WPF and Blend to allow us to create a little bit more of a dynamic presentation of the content. Now all of this is dynamic again, this picture right here, and I'll show you in a bit. I can swap this out very easily. It allows us to a little bit more of a compelling title treatment. Allowing 3D capabilities. What we're also working on, obviously with the full motion video, is the great thing about presentations like this and what we normally do in Flash very painstakingly is to allow the page to be a living and breathing page or slide. So the video that we've taken, this background video, we're working right now on getting that to be a constant and persistent element. So we're always going to have a life. So as we go through the presentation, we're able to look at, what's wrong with this. This is a segment of his presentation to where they're looking at a design that and does it sound to QSR, which is quick service restaurant. So it really allows them to take a look at how to analyze some of their design and approach. So is it handcrafted? and then now that's it. So this gives you kind of a brief snippet of where we're at right now. Stanley's very excited because obviously, this compared to the other presentation takes it up a notch. And yeah, we're very interested in being able to sort of find that avenue between really utilizing our discipline as far as audio, video, 3D design, and pair that up with an editable presentation that can really allow business presenters to take it to the next level. So let me switch over. Oh, actually, we're going to take a look at the editability, right? Yes. So let's step out of that. So as Mike demonstrated here, as far as how easy it is to take a look at this, let me scroll up here. So, yeah, so here we are. We've selected the slide. Now let's say that this picture was presentation, the right picture for me. It's very easy. I can go down to the presentation, grab a new image, drop it directly back onto here, and as you see, it's been updated. So it's really easy. And as you saw in the presentation, this is a 3D component. And so the possibilities are pretty much endless when it comes down to different spatial navigations. Not necessarily looking at it like a slide-to-slide metaphor anymore, but really sort of an experience that you're taken through. So if I were to drop that image back in and run the presentation again from the current, we have in this slide basically the new updated image. So we're very excited. And we're very happy to be working with Electric Rain and Starbucks to sort of take presentations to where they haven't been taken before. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So Ken, I got a question for you. So as early adopters, he contacted us and I'm like, well, Ken, product's not there yet. You've seen some technical difficulties that we're not quite there, and we're in alpha. But so when did we engage? How long ago? It's just been weeks, really, that you and have one developer or designer on.
A developer and designer. Taking a look at both of them are pretty cross, pretty hybrid oriented, but they've been able to jump right in and work with Nick and the team to assemble what we have here. And so.
So the investment in time so far on your side, maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Couple weeks. So, certainly this is just the beginning of what will be the full presentation experience that you're seeing. But I guess the point that we're trying to make is that with minimal investment that if you understand and start using Blend, that carries right over into our Designer Edition, which Nick is going to just show you just a snippet of some of the Starbucks graphics within the Designer Edition. And some of the things that the Blend team has done and created the presentation base that you've seen today. So it's really, if you're used to professional design tools, I think it's safe to say that you're going to pick up our Designer Edition pretty well, but really, again, provide that expressiveness back over to the business presenter and have that editability. So again, Ken and your team's done a great job so far, so thank you very much.
No problem.
So if we could get the screen switched over, I'm going to actually take you into one of the components that we just saw within the Starbucks kit again, so you can have some context of how these components can actually be built. So in this case, what we have is that 3D effect where the image is actually able to kind of fade back into the background slightly, and then when the media needs to swap, it actually does just sort of that 360-degree turn or 180-degree turn. So this is the component itself, not all that complex to actually create. In this case, you're seeing two images. So the one off the stage is actually a visual brush that we're brushing onto the 3D object itself. And you'll notice that I have a whole series of timelines all set up over here. Our system is designed to deliver and remove media from the stage. It's also designed to be able to keep a component on the stage, but be able to swap its data, whether it's text or images or videos, things like that. So we have these different things called sequence actions. So in this case, I have an ER transition in, which is essentially the animation that happens every time this component needs to be added to the stage. Okay, so you saw that little flash effect that Blitz has kind of baked into the component to kind of go right along with the story of taking a picture and building a brand around it. So this little animation right here is every time the component is added to the stage within the StandOut solution, you're going to get that to happen. Now I'm going to go down into the swap. So we have a pair of animations called begin swap and end swap. So if you as a presenter say, okay, I'd like to cycle through a series of images here over a series of presentation points, what is going to happen is the component is going to get this little message and it's going to say, okay, begin swap, change data, and end swap. So you can see here as I scrub through, what the designer has done is they've actually created an animation that takes that component and rotates it 90 degrees, at which point the data is swapped, and then we go over to end swap, and it finishes that rotation with the new data in place. So these are the systems that we've been working on and planning and figuring out how does a design firm create really great effects utilizing the 3D API, all the power of Vista, and then be able to hand it off to our system, which enables the presenter to really simply just say, I want to show this image, I want to show this image, and I want to show this image, and I want to show it in this sequence. And then I want it to go away. So they're really focused on their content and their message delivery. Meanwhile, the components and the animation system behind the scenes has really been all wired up to handle this stuff really, really well and seamlessly without almost like the two halves really having to know much about each other. So that's an example of the 3D component. Another thing I want to kind of call your attention to is these components, as I mentioned, are compiled DLLs out of Blend. Now, you may say, well, that seems sort of heavyweight just to show a picture, to show some text. Well, we're actually thinking about more than images and more than text. Okay? We're thinking about the power of the presentation environment and being able to deliver all sorts of experiences right within the context of your presentation. So because each component is a compiled DLL, you can think of these as mini applications. So you could build an entire product ordering system right within your presentation that you never have to leave the context of where you want your audience to be. You could be browsing a catalog that you're tapping into web APIs. You could actually, and I'll bring up IdentityMind has actually built a virtual earth component for us that you can load right up into the projector. You can actually brand it so that it fits right within the context of your presentation design, and you can begin to navigate through virtual earth not having to leave the presentation experience. So these are really powerful things. And I'm just showing this screen right here because this is another component that we're utilizing from the IdentityMind team. It's a part of their Blendables package. And this is called Element Snapshot. And what we found early on is that we saw these series of APIs called the bitmap effects. And our designer, Stuart, just started going nuts. He was like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I can start to use glow and blur and drop shadow and have the platform actually handle that. Unfortunately, the bitmap effects didn't work out so well on the platform side. But fortunately, we have creative and innovative companies like IdentityMind who did some creative stuff and actually enabled the ability to take content and utilize those bitmap effects, but without the weight of the animation and the performance hit that you were taking on the bitmap effects. So this is an example. You see this glowing effect happening over here. There's absolutely no way Stuart could have done this, and he's the one who built this presentation, this design kit. There's no way he could have done that and had this performance. So the power of the DLL in our system is actually a great window or opportunity to start to think what presentations can really become. These can be really, really experiences that offer more than just delivering text and images. They can be delivering services, really rich media effects that are not necessarily possible until you start leveraging the power of Blend and the power of the platform. So I appreciate IdentityMind for pulling that off for us.
Cool. Thanks.
So I'm going to hand it back over to Mike. Did you want to switch over?
Yeah, I'm going to, Jason, can we switch, please? And do you want to set up our closing? So before we close here, I just wanted to show you the breadth of design that our system is attempting to handle is that we're trying. Our goal and vision is to rid ourselves with text-heavy bullet point slides and create, again, this immersive storytelling using visual metaphors in order to back up our messaging, to gauge the audience. So I've got a couple of other examples that I have here that I just wanted to share with you before we head into closing. You know, this is a good example. So Stoneworks Architecture wants to show off their portfolio. So the design metaphor here is a drafting board, a drawing board, along with plans that will roll in and out. We use the idea of, again, hierarchy as our whole system is based on. So we've got the topic, subtopic, and then the supporting content comes in and gracefully displays our message using the Polaroid kind of metaphor along with the plans rolling in and out. And again, this really nice, graceful way. All presentations are linear, again, in nature, and there's stopping points, so you've got to use animation in a very judicious way and making sure that it's not too much of a distraction, but using it in a graceful way. So there's a great example of using a visual metaphor built into the design, and yet still having the effect that goes way beyond a static presentation. I also want to share with you what we think is really kind of an interesting point of heading into understanding cognitive aspects of presentations. Again, our research has shown, Nick did a ton of research, the slide paradigm. Slide one, how many people have been in a presentation where you see slide one and then they couldn't fit enough information on it, and so they put continued on slide two? Okay, so in between slide one and slide two, there's a gap. And you can lose an audience member in that gap. Why don't we use the power of rich media to keep us engaged? And so this is an example of using design to speak to the audience without them even knowing it, and actually making the presenter a better presenter without them even knowing it. So I'm going to give you the example. The horizontal honeycomb effect is a visual effect. That's always going to be present whenever we're talking about our major message. Whenever we go into supporting message, we don't hit slide two. We go right into this vertical aspect of a visual design. And it speaks to us saying, oh, whenever we're in vertical, it's supporting message to the main topic. And I can simply roll content in and out without ever having that slide break. We're really looking at how we can speak to the audience and keep them engaged, like television can do. And get away from the metaphor of slides and limited space and content. So this is what I think is an interesting concept of cognitively really addressing some of the things that, again, audience members we don't even realize, and business presenters we don't know. They just like the cool design, So I'll just share with you just a couple of experimental design kits that we're working on here in the use of kind of breaking the frame mode to present. And then we'll kind of wrap up and go into some Q&A. Oh. I'll just run this here. You can preview it here. But this is the idea of telling a story and kind of revealing aspects of the presentation that are yet to come. So they realize that there's a bigger story to be told by zooming in and out and using a camera pan here and moving to one section and another. And again, all this is editable content here. I can change out imagery. Again, unlike Flash where you have to do a Control-Enter and build the thing up. So again, this is taking advantage of the platform in a very rich way. Our engineers, so we needed design kits to test with, and this was their favorite one that they would always gravitate towards. It was always, using Victoria's Secrets, but it's about representing the brand, and you can see how Blitz has done a great job building out the brand and the design. And again, the frosted glass effect is a great example, for Victoria's Secrets using the sexiness. And this is what the designers understand that I don't get as a business presenter. I just know I like it, and so we're trying to provide a system for merging the two. So that's about it for our demos and the product. And let's switch over to the other screen, please, Jason. Thank you, sir. So what's next? It's about getting involved and understanding that we're going to have public bits available that we're working on. Right now we're in alpha. We're still working out a few bugs. We would like to get some design kits that we can offer you as business presenters and designers, some assets to play with. You know, one of the things we've been involved with the community for years, selling Swift 3D to Flash designers, we're introducing a new paradigm and extending their business model as design agencies to move into a new area. And progressive and innovative companies like Blitz is on board. We want to engage with other design agencies, so if you're interested in this, please email us, go to our site, sign up for the beta, and give us the feedback. It's all about giving the product and the power in the hands of the designer and the presenter to give the right product to you guys. So we'll be out in hopefully late May, early June with that public beta. You know, we're only successful if you guys are. And we've worked on this product for 3.5, 4 years. So please give us that feedback. And we're really, really trying hard to give you the product that is going to enable you to extend your services, to enter a new area in presentations and deliver really what we figure is a new category of presentations. So please go over to erain.com/standout, sign up for our beta, and you can email Nick. His email address is right up here. And again, thank you for coming. We'll go into Q&A. And most of all, thanks to Blitz doing a great job in Starbucks for their support. So thank you.
Was there any questions?
Hi there. Can you talk about the product capabilities for delivering presentations in situations other than a live environment, whether it's an export or over the web or some sort of canned format?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our deployment for non-live environments is to be able to export these as executables where you can give them and they can play them back, and the only requirement you need is .NET 3.0 on XP or certainly Windows Vista. We're also looking at a couple of different things we haven't mastered yet, but is doing a video recording for those that don't have XP, as well as there's a lot more deep functionality built in presenter notes, and we understand the need for handouts and all of that sort of thing that you could take snapshots in time and assemble those. And again, we'll programmatically do that for you. Even we're experimenting with putting those into a PowerPoint if that's how it has to be, even though we're not really trying to head that way because it takes away from the idea. But maybe PDFs. We understand that there's a static experience and a handover and redistribution issues. So, but absolutely EXEs, you can distribute those.
And with a little bit of forward-looking thought, we've actually brought a whole bunch of our devs here to research the Silverlight solution. And it's obviously going to be a part of our story. Okay. Possibly even at a version 1, utilizing the video capabilities within Silverlight. As Mike was saying, possibly doing a sort of a screen capture-like thing where you can interactively move through a video presentation. That's at a bare minimum. But from what we've seen of Silverlight and what we think is coming, based on conversations we've had in back alleys, we really believe that Silverlight's going to be a major part of our deployment post V1, and it's probably going to be the first thing we'll start working on after release.
Okay.
Also, XBAP. We should be able to support XBAP applications so you can run them in your browser as long as you have WPF.
Cool. Thank you.
You bet.
Anybody else? Come on. Yes?
What is XBAP?
I don't know what XBAP acronym stands for, but I know it plays in a browser. See, I'm a business presenter, so all I know is it plays in my presentation. So again, it's WPF based, but it's a way that the application actually run in the browser and still leverage the richness of the .NET 3.0 framework that's installed. But it's not cross-platform, and that's the downside. So if you're on a Mac, you won't be able to see that.
I have a client who needs to do the exact same presentation over and over again, but just change the data. And they don't want to keep going into the presentation and do it. They want us to design something like a form and then just dump it into the presentation for them. Can your program have some kind of interface where we could do that?
It doesn't right now, but the great thing about the structure and the architecture that we built and the platform itself is that it's really easy, because it's all XML based behind the scenes, to be able to provide sort of a whole different editing experience as far as real simple data changes, to be able to feed that data into the same presentation but in a different way. And there's actually, right now, you could easily, as I was mentioning, these components are DLLs. You can actually, through web services, be communicating live data off of a server into the presentation itself. So it sort of is looking beyond the idea of just having stuff locally, but being able to connect with data anywhere you want and have every presentation be dynamically generated as far as the content. Because we've separated the data and the design so well, the two can get merged at any point in time, whether it's when you're designing the presentation or actually when you're giving it.
Any other questions? Yes. I'm sorry? Yeah. Yeah, it's very static, though. You lose the animations on print. No, I know. I'm just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. So just as the need for handouts, and we understand, again, we're going to give the ability, it's not built in yet, the ability for you to determine what part you want to take that snapshot, so to speak, compile them in a linear static sequence, and then, yes, absolutely be able to print. And even, again, copying some of the things that PowerPoint have, of whether they're small thumbnails with notes on the sides or just this full screen. So absolutely, good question. Yeah?
Could you do a plug-in PowerPoint so it doesn't have to be a religious experience? It completely can breeze over your thing. You can put a little bit of your sexy stuff into PowerPoint.
You know, they're really two different paradigms. PowerPoint, the question was, can we build a plugin over PowerPoint? And we actually considered that early on, and we did some R&D. The issue is that it's a paradigm shift from a slide-based paradigm, again, coming from overheads, from 35 millimeters. PowerPoint version 1, I don't know if you guys remember, Jenna Graphics was a service that actually had to create the slide from it. That was PowerPoint 1's functionality. You create all the text, send it off to a service bureau, and you get your slide deck back, hence the term. But it's a different paradigm, and we're really heading into multimedia delivery, cinematic, broadcast level graphics, engagement to another level. And when we started to tap in, it was really difficult to keep the two paradigms working succinctly. And you know, the best that we were able to do is be able to pull your content out of a slide deck so you're not having to re-enter. So at least, you know, you're bringing it one way, and it's certainly not a round-trip experience because, again, we'd be shoving multimedia data back into PowerPoint. But, you know, we definitely work in the one direction very nicely. So just two different paradigms, and they're just too different to be able to just plug into that system. Good question. Yeah?
Are you planning on having a player so then you have to have a full product to play with? Oh, I guess you can use the Windows on Microsoft infrastructure.
Yeah, and actually, when we say we give you an EXE that you could send around and all they have to do is double-click, it's actually made up of two different things. One is a projector player that is built into that EXE, and then the content and the data that's delivered and played. So.
And actually, the interesting thing is technically we don't have a player. The platform is our player. So it really, when we say a projector, it's more just a metaphor of, you know, we package it all up into one thing that'll just, you know, play for you. But we're actually leveraging the platform so heavily that it's really just utilizing the power of the desktop. And when we move into Silverlight, that's where you're more using the Silverlight player to actually display our content.
Sure.
It's a little bit scary sending around an EXE for security concerns. You might have some, you know, it doesn't have a virus in it.
No, that's a real good point. We've had a lot of internal discussion about it, and
I think actually again, we're sort of using the metaphor or the term EXE a little bit loosely. The idea is that it'll be a file that has everything you need to play, if that makes sense. So it technically won't be necessarily a compiled EXE.
Or we're looking at click once installments, something again, we absolutely see it. An EXE, it couldn't even get through my email, and I understand that. So we'll get an email-friendly system to where it'll do a quick install if it needs to, or some way to just tap into it. But we are looking at that. That's a good point.
Well, looks like there's no more questions, so thank you all very much for coming.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.